I'm officially calling to order the Arts Commission. At the moment, we do not have a quorum. Hopefully, we'll get a couple more participants, but we will proceed anyway as scheduled. This time I do have an agenda with me. And so the first thing is a legislative update. That's Steve Patterson and Jeff Reisner. And neither of them is on. Now, Andrew, I do have a question for you. Did you and Patty and Steve Patterson figure out if you were to be his representative and have a vote, or is he still going to vote?
My understanding is that I would be the voting representative for.
Well, welcome then. Then now you count as a quorum. So we have one more that we need to have a quorum. So thank you, Andrew, for that clarification, because I was asked the question and didn't have a clue. So do you have any legislative updates from the city?
Well, legislatively, City Council is on recess until August. So
but we have met since June 10th.
That is correct. I would mention that the extended outdoor seating program passed legislatively and is now active. We have one application that has come in and been approved. So in the next couple of days, you will see extended outdoor seating in front of Brennan's. They have a very nice layout and plan together for that. We had a meeting with the Uptown Business Association this morning, and I know of at least 2 other businesses that are planning to turn in applications in the near future. So it is moving along. I did get some feedback from some of the AMAC members. We're not quite there yet as far as expanding for arts. It is something as far as the pilot program that can be done, but we haven't gotten to the point where we're exploring that at this time.
Okay. And that was exactly my question. Were there any applications, and how is it going? Scott just joined us, so we do now have a quorum and we'll move forward. Next is the minutes from the June 10th meeting. You should have received that from via email, well, from Patty, actually, via email, and from me. I think I sent it as well. So hopefully you've had a chance to look through that and see if there's any questions you have or anything you think is incorrect. Comments? Not a soul? Okay, do I have a motion to accept the minutes? Wait a minute, I did have one item. It's on page 2, under A, it says repainting of Arts West retaining wall, Emily Beveridge to attend. We need a period there, so it makes sense going into the next line. So it's an editing correction. It's not a substantive change. So a motion to accept as edited.
I motion to accept.
Okay, Chelsea. In a second?
I second.
Scott. Okay. Josh, I think you're muted.
Not anymore.
Okay. Hi, Josh.
I'll make that correction and then send the corrected minutes to Patty.
Well, we need to vote. All in favor?
Oh, okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Okay, brief reports on ongoing projects. First of all, Kelly, details about the box project, and has that moved forward, and do you have problems?
It has all been turned over to Ann as far as she wanted to take care of the contacting the people who actually do the wraps.
Right.
So she was going to do that part, getting the specifics from them of what they needed. And then we'll go back to the entries, the winners, and give them the specifics of how to enlarge their artwork and who to send it to and in what format and all that fun stuff.
So would you like to contact her to see how that's progressed?
I will. I contacted her last week, and she had said that she wrote to Andrew again about the information, and Andrew had given her the information that she needed, that was needed for who to contact. And I don't know if she's contacted that person yet. So yes.
Okay, well, that's good to know that it is moving along.
It is. Yes, it is moving.
Although not complete by any stretch.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Josh, I did want to ask Josh, are you available to help people with the sizing of their image?
Yeah, I can work with them again so that they get it right. That's no problem. So put my contact info down. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Not a problem.
Excellent. So 3B, paint touch-up for Arts West. Emily emailed me that she would not be coming to the meeting because there really is nothing to report. And the reason there's nothing to report is that Arts West is still not able to have work study students from OU at Arts West. And so until that is clarified and moves forward, we're just in a holding pattern. So she said she would plan on attending next month, but right now she just doesn't know anything. Moving on, new business, and we have a guest. This is Lauren Gunther, and she's here to talk about a mural on a privately owned wall, and I believe it's privately owned by you. Is that correct? Yes.
Yes.
That makes it even easier.
Awesome.
And she did contact me and say, well, I don't have a drawing to show you yet. Should I come anyway? And my answer was yes, because it's pretty simple when you own the wall. But what we're here for in that particular case is to give you advice and guidance on things that work, things that don't work, and so on. So if you want to tell us a little about your project, we'd be delighted to hear it.
Sure. So we bought this building. Do you guys know which building it is?
No.
Okay. If you are standing facing the Village Bakery, looking at the bakery, Della Zona would be on your right, and our building would be the one on your left. So right on State Street. And actually, let me see if I can. I'm going to try and do something here. We'll see if this works. This will be fun. It's an experiment. Tell me if you can see that.
Oh, sure.
Okay. So up at the top there, here, this is where we're looking at. Second floor there. There's a view of the wall. And this is kind of more from the Village Bakery, where their tree and their porch kind of interrupt the view a little bit. But so we bought this building for my business, for my office, at the end of last year, and I've been having my office here for a few months. So there's going to eventually be a sign out front, and I don't know. Since we bought the building, I felt like I really like the murals in the neighborhood. I like Kindred's and I like Della Zona's, and I would like to add to that fun feel of this part of State Street. It feels really Athensy to me, and I'd like to participate in that and kind of draw attention to our building, but also kind of fit in with the street. And it's a really nondescript kind of, like, usually when I describe the building, everybody's like, there's a building beside Village Bakery, like you don't notice it. So I'd really like to both draw attention to my place of business, but also, like, I don't know, just contribute to Athens and its weird art stuff that we do. But I wasn't sure what we were going to do with that for multiple months since we bought the building. And then just recently with the Black Lives Matter stuff going on, it kind of started to gel together. And so I think we have a pretty clear vision of what we want it to look like now. So basically what we're going to go for, I think, is I have an artist. She's out of Columbus. Her name is Bonali, and she's going to be working on sketches. I was hoping she'd have them ready for tonight, but she didn't. So basically it's going to be 2 4x8 panels side by side. And there's a lot of details about how we're going to get it affixed to the vinyl siding and stuff like that. And I want to make it as weatherproof as possible, but it's going to be, there's an overhang obviously from the roof, so that helps, but I want to make it last as long as we can. And the vision that we kind of have for it is to have a Black mother, kind of, if you know that like traditional goddess, like pregnant goddess position, kind of cross-legged with a big belly. We're going to kind of go for that, but she's going to be a Black mother. And then we're going to have a lot of like local flora that's also sort of birth related, to kind of frame her in these like Athens County kind of local plants that are also related to birth. And part of how this ties into my work and also Black Lives Matter movement, I'm a midwife. So my office here is to serve pregnant people in Athens County and other counties that come here for my services. Home birth almost exclusively. But on a national level, I don't know if it's common knowledge, but there's basically a maternal health crisis with women of color and Black mothers in this country. It's really bad. It's like, if you're a Black mother, you're 4 times more likely to die of a pregnancy-related complication in the US. Like, outcomes for Black mothers are as bad as they are in like Uzbekistan. And, you know, it's just ridiculous. So, and it's not because of lack of education or social status. It crosses all of those boundaries, with the common denominator being race. So in Athens, obviously, Black and people of color are a minority in our county. It's 2.7, I think, % of our population. But that made it feel even more important to me to use the space that I have to, I guess, give visibility so that children, and because I think we see a lot of images of white people and I think especially for young people to see a different representation, I thought that could be really cool to kind of incorporate these 2 things, and it kind of meshes with my business. And anyhow, so that's kind of the vision.
Okay, questions, comments, answers, and suggestions. Deafening silence.
I think it sounds awesome.
Cool.
You?
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think it sounds really awesome.
I do too. I think it sounds great.
Sweet.
Hi, this is Andrew. my question for you is, do you know the type of application that your
Right.
artist will be using?
She has done some of what she's doing before, only we're going to do what she's done before is like one panel of plywood, basically. And what she's going to be doing for me is multiple panels. But so she's done this before, and she was telling me, I think she uses like an exterior grade paint and then like multiple layers of finish over it. And I'm just kind of taking her word on hopefully that lasts. She said that some of the ones she's done before, I can't remember what she said the longevity of it was, if, you know, and if it's under an overhang or not, it matters. So, but I'm totally open to suggestions.
Well, we've had some discussion, experience, whatever, with coatings that are designed to protect and prevent vandalism.
Mm.
And the finishes have dulled the paintings.
Mm.
And an example is the Stimson Avenue with the doves on that curve. The color has dulled considerably. And that came as a result of an anti-graffiti coating that he put on to protect from vandalism. Really ended up damaging the paint. So since then, there's been discussions with Sherwin-Williams, and their comment was, well, that was never meant for an artistic piece. It was meant for a blank wall that needed to be protected. Mm-hmm. So that's how we got to that spot. But we had several murals that were painted with that coating. So don't do that.
Okay. I mean, the good thing is it's really high up. So
Yeah, that's what I was.
yeah, so we won't have the vandalism issue. I think our biggest issue is weather, because the sun kind of beats on that side of the building. And I think, you know, potentially even the overhang's not that big. So it's going to be weather protection. But I'll have to pick Bonalie's brain a little bit and see what exactly she's going to use. And
if you have the sun beating on it, I would suggest looking into a UV protection coating too.
okay.
Right.
I wonder if you can. I mean, I know it's a lost art anymore, but the barn painting. You know, if you can find someone with that sort of experience, that could just give you some ideas about what they do. Particularly present day barn painters, right?
That's a great idea, because those last forever. They've
Well,
figured out
Well, some of them have, some of them haven't.
right.
that's true.
But I guess the point being, since it's going to be painted on wood, you said, yeah,
Yeah.
plywood, right? So sounds like, you know, it might be worth a shot, seeing if you could find somebody for some advice there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We had
So
some
anything
experience-
to extend its life is great.
We had some experience at Arts West when we the front-facing sign, the front of Arts West. That's made out of plywood and paint application. I believe at the time John Leffelholtz used marine grade plywood. It's a
That sounds familiar. I
type of
think I might have
plywood.
done that.
And it's the application's rated for a certain period of time as far as the paint applied to it. And I think that sign in front of Arts West is getting closer to its life expectancy. It was put up in 2013. Does that sound about right? I can't remember exactly now.
I almost think it's even older than that.
I came in 2013, and it was there when I was there.
Okay, so
Early spring. So unless you put it in,
old,
you know.
it is older than that. It sat in the green room for
right.
3 or 4 years before it was hung.
Right.
Well, and the issue with this mural is that it will take, if I'm not mistaken, it will take very direct morning sun. Because
Yeah.
that's due east, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. At least it's morning sun, which is arguably, not quite as bad as later afternoon sun, but that's going to take a beating. And it seems to me Arts West doesn't necessarily take that same kind of direct sun.
But Arts West doesn't have that sign doesn't have like a roof or overhang, right? Okay, so maybe that'll even out.
Okay. Josh, you look like you want to say something.
Along with Andrew's comment, they make a marine grade polyurethane that you can then coat the plywood with, and it's really thick and it's meant to withstand outdoor abuse. So, mention that to your artist. Your artist might have an idea of what will really help. And sealing the edges of the plywood so that water doesn't get in between the ply.
Yeah, she had even talked about maybe on the actual painting itself, like almost like flashing on the top edge.
Mm-hmm.
So I know she has thought some of this through. I didn't ask her for details.
The flashing is a really good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and another thing is it might be if you see that the finish is wearing off, that you could put on another coat in a couple years and keep it from deteriorating. Don't know. I forgot to tell you all, I had my bench in my backyard painted by Jolena Hansberger before she moved to Vermont, and she did a beautiful zinnia on it, and it's quite lovely. So you all need to drive by my house and see my contribution to art in Athens. Well, she had already done a mural on my retaining wall, so I now have 2 Jolena pieces at my house. So, any other questions from or for?
I have something. It's not really a question, but I want to make sure that you think about publishing or just keeping track of like an artist statement or your thoughts about, why you decided to do this, just so that way there's a record, because, at some point we would like to get kind of a list of all of the art in Athens that are on private property as well as public property. So that way we can utilize that for tourist purposes and visitors and things like that. So
yeah, that's cool.
And also even you could, have even like little cards or something of it, because there might be people who would be interested in, knowing more about it. So,
yeah. I guess I had 2 questions. One is, are you saying that because we own the building, like, I know that I'm going to go through a sign process for the actual business sign, and we went through a gigantic process for getting this switched back to a commercial location, which it's zoned commercially, and anyhow, long story, but so I'm getting used to how in the city limits, there's all kinds of hoops. So I wasn't sure if I needed to do anything officially before putting something like that.
The answer to that is you've done it. Okay. Tonight. Basically, because you own the building, we don't have to vote on it. And the city council doesn't have to vote on it. And so you have the right to put something. We like it when people come to us because we can answer questions for them. And the other thing is might be such a thing as something that we would want to steer somebody away from, an image that we might not think was the best idea in the world. And so there might be some guidance in that respect. But this sounds lovely. And when you do get an image of it, if you can forward it to Josh and me,
Yeah.
then we can get it out to the commissioners so we're just aware of it. But
Yeah.
as far as permission, you don't need permission.
Okay. And yeah, I think she was going to try and get some sketches relatively soon, and I'll forward those to you guys. But then we were thinking of, so Black Maternal Health Week is the second week of April every year. So we were thinking of aiming towards that 2021 to kind of unveil or whatever. So that's kind of the timeline.
I hope we'll all be out and about by then.
Yeah, me too. I guess my other question is this isn't a make or break it kind of thing, but I'm interested to know if there's any ways to not help with funding. That makes it sound weird because I'm willing to pay for the whole thing, but I wondered if there were resources for this type of thing. For like I don't know, if there's anything like that happens to already exist that you know of, other than just like private funding.
Nothing that's from the city, and we don't have funds to fund projects.
Right.
However, anybody have an idea of what direction she might go? No?
I mean, I thought I haven't decided yet because I don't want to, I mean, it is like a private, it's not private, it's a very public, but it's my own, like, I want to do this. And I feel weird about asking people to help with it. So I haven't quite decided. And I think I'd be really picky about the wording of it if I were going to ask like in a GoFundMe or something like that. But I have kind of considered that as maybe an option, but I'm not sure if I want to do that yet or not. But
Thoughts?
The only idea that I would have would be if the Ohio Arts Council has any small makers grants related to projects that are similar to what you're proposing, then that might be a resource that the artists that you're working with could pursue. I don't have a lot of experience with that. Kelly might, and I don't want to put her on the spot, but as an artist that has worked with the Ohio Arts Council before.
Well, I do know that if you put together a proposal, first you could go on or even call the Arts Commission and ask them about small project funding and if there might be resources. I would imagine that the next step after that would be to write up a proposal describing what you've described to us and why you're doing it, and that whole function of Athens concept, and that you would like to see more people do that, and maybe include images that are in that neighborhood and not too far away. You've got Patty Mitchell, that's about a block from me, and that's not far from where you are either. And her house the whole house is a virtual mural. And so I think that might be a place that you might be able to get some help, but I'm not positive.
Do you know any grant writers?
no, I don't know.
No.
I could probably scrounge one up.
Yeah, the only person I can think of, but she's super busy with the Gathering Place, is Ginger Schmallenberg.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She's worked with a lot of arts organizations, and she knows how to dig up grants, because there are all kinds of grants out there, especially for women artists. And since you're doing an African American theme, that there might be some avenue for that. So, but it's hard for us laymen to figure out those grants. It's
Emily Prince is also a fabulous writer.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, Emily Prince.
Well, and Emily Beveridge writes them all the time.
That's true.
And what you might do is call one or two of those people and ask them for suggestions, either somebody that might have the time and the wherewithal to help you, or if there's a specific direction to go. I know that People's Bank in Marietta was doing small grants and has done many in Athens. So there are things out there. It's just finding them.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So, Chelsea, are you wanting to say something?
Yeah, I was just perusing the Ohio Arts Council website, and under grants for project support, I mean, I'm not, because I didn't delve into it or anything, but there is a building cultural diversity project funding for culturally diverse organizations. It does have a PDF that has all the information and things like that, as well as the application deadlines, et cetera, et cetera. So you could definitely look to see if this project would fit into any of those. So that's just a suggestion.
Okay, cool.
All righty. Well, if no one else has any input here, we can excuse Lauren so she doesn't have to sit through our work session, and we can move forward with thoughts on our policies.
Well, thank you for having me and hearing me out.
And if you want to come back sometime, if you run into a question, give us a call. Cool.
All right. Thanks.
Yep.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, so next on the agenda is the arts policy question. Now, did you muddle through this page 4 through 8? Yes, no, sort of. Good job, Chelsea. Good job, Josh. I see 2 heads shaking. I went through it again today, just trying to be very careful about looking at it. And my major takeaway is that it needs to be totally rewritten. It's terrible. It's not clearly organized, it's repetitive, and it just needs to be cleaned up. So I think that, I'm willing to work on it more. And in terms of, I don't understand why computers mess with the layout. Why all of a sudden you have 2 spaces in the middle of a line. Andrew, I saw the same thing happened in your document on the extended outdoor spaces. I don't get that. Why all of a sudden you have 2 spaces, and I mean horizontal spaces, not vertical spaces. And so it looks like a new paragraph, and it's the middle of a sentence.
I think one of the reasons, because I'm looking at the resources, and I have 2 versions of this. One is a Google Doc, and then one is a PDF. And so somebody may have tried to, open it as a doc and through the PDF, and that's what screws it all up. I'm looking at the PDF now, and it's cleaner for sure. It definitely needs a lot of work, but it's better than the doc version that I see that I have printed off as well. So that could be the major issue, is that there's just way too many versions that are out there.
Okay. And one of the problems is the outlining. It's disastrous. I mean, it skips around from types of, capital A to small a to big one to little one to Roman numerals, just within a paragraph. And it's very, very confusing. And if it says refer back to something, good luck on finding that. So that's why I feel it needs to be reorganized. Now, what I did do is I went through looking for things that I thought in that particular part of it that we had questions about. And one is that I think that anytime it refers to a written report, it should say, or email. I don't know what the standard is in business now, but it just seems to me that it should say, where it says must be in writing, it should say or electronic. So that was one thing. Another thing, we've talked a couple of times about the deaccession process, and that it talks about every 5 years you go through and re-inventory your art and decide what should be eliminated, basically. So that's the point. So I'm thinking maybe that might be an ad hoc committee type thing. What do you think? Do you think that might work? And especially if we had something that we're recommending to be decommissioned, that there be an ad hoc committee for that. Just like when we create a piece, we have an ad hoc committee. Why not have an ad hoc committee when we defrock a piece?
I can only think of one time since I joined in 2011 where we had to actually sort of determine whether or not that process was even required.
Right, and it wasn't in
right.
this particular case.
Okay. So, I mean, as far as having an ad hoc committee do it, I don't think there's any problem with that per se, but I think it presumes that we're following through with what's prescribed in terms of, actually looking at these works every 5 years and
maybe
so,
that could be a committee that goes through all the arts.
Or given the size of our committee, maybe it could just be something that we put as a timeline piece that we're committed to doing, and we all raise our right hands and say, on years that end with 3, in the month of February. Do you know what I mean, though? I mean, something
right.
like that it becomes part of your calendar, your process calendar, though I don't think it and maybe even revisiting it annually would be more efficient once you got it established. I don't know, but
or maybe we already have trouble getting to things.
I know.
an annual basis.
I know. And the truth is, I don't know. I mean, I remember that Bob really felt strongly about having this process in place.
Oh, I know. And I have no problem with the process. I think
Yeah.
it's excellent. The substance of the document, I didn't have problem with. It's just so hard to follow because it's so messed up
Yeah.
in terms of the formatting.
Yeah.
Carol, you might try reading the PDF, and that might help you understand it because the PDF looks a lot better. I struggled with the Google Docs Word document too. And when I read do you want me to send out the PDF right now?
Yes, that would be helpful. I'm not
Send it out to
sure
everybody.
whether I have that or not, but, and then can you put the PDF in the docs?
I can also do that. I'll update the Google Docs as well. But let me see here.
Because that might help a lot. And there are places where the outlining process, and I thought that possibly what Andrew did with the outdoor spaces and just used points under each category without outlining it, but then it's very hard to reference back. And I noticed in that document, there's one place where it referenced back to D, and there is no D because it's all just dots. So the point is for people other than us to be able to make sense out of it. And it would be nice if we could too, but certainly the public, if they want to know what it is that we do, they should be able to look at this document and be able to tell.
So you're looking for an editor.
I am.
Mm-hmm.
Any volunteers?
In case anybody hadn't picked up on that.
Well, and it may not be as hard if I take a PDF and see how that looks to me. And if I think that might be more effective, there might not be as much editing, but I don't know, with the outlining, I mean, I taught this kind of stuff, but by the time you get down to the little numbers, there's nowhere to go. What do you use next? And there's so many subtopics to subtopics to subtopics in the outline that it's just challenging. So I'll look at the PDF and start that way. Are there any other substantive things that you thought that maybe we could add this or maybe we could get rid of that?
Carol, one last thought on what you're talking about. I agree that even with the PDF, the formatting needs work. Is there someone on staff at the city who deals with writing and copy editing and doing all that stuff who can maybe help us with that?
I see a big head wag.
Big no.
The upper left-hand corner.
All right, I'm a dreamer. Never mind.
Yep. That would be nice.
I mean, I don't mind editing it. I am fearful of what the next month or two is going to happen, or, what's going to happen, purely because I don't know what's going to happen. And so I am happy to, put this on my to-do list, but I'm not going to be able to guarantee anything, at least by the next meeting. But it can definitely be a work in progress. I don't mind editing or reformatting or anything like that. So.
Well, and I'll take a look at the PDF in the next couple of days and see if that helps me to help you do what we're talking about. Okay, well, thank you, Chelsea. I may decide I don't want the world to go back to the way it was. Okay. So no other comments about content and basically what the document tells us to do. I think there's redundancy that we can get rid of big time. And that would be very helpful. And yeah, but those were the two main things were that be sure to add the electronic possibilities and to consider the possibility of having ad hoc committees for some of the things that we just go, oh my God, we can't do that. There might be people out there that would just love it. You think? Okay. Any other questions, comments about that section? And I'll move on to the ending section and then go back to the first section that I did some work on previously. And we'll try to get it in order. So further discussion of the actions possible under the extended outdoor space within the public right-of-way. Andrew, first, just in terms of generally what your thoughts are with looking at those outdoor spaces, not necessarily the parking places. I'm pretty sure that doesn't really work for anything but the dining. Would you agree?
Not necessarily.
Really?
So there's a couple of things. Obviously, the first part is the outdoor dining piece.
Right.
And that was the first order of business. But what we're moving into now is other beautification ideas using the same type of model. So imagine if a extended space was created and instead of having dining seating, it had benches or a platform that had temporary artwork installation for a period of time. Like I had mentioned earlier, I don't know that we're quite ready yet since we're in the pilot program for just getting it off the ground.
Right.
Developing probably as we move into the latter part of the fall, a way to help organizations and businesses to envision what these could look like next year if the project's deemed successful. So let's say, for instance, I'm going to use an example that the old Woolworths building, which is now being run by Ohio University, it's not a business front, but it has several parking spaces in the front area. If that organization or organizations that are housed there wanted to create a space outside of there that includes, incorporates plantings and artwork and benches of some sort, that's basically a public space for people to enjoy. We've talked about an AMAC for many years. How do we help people see the unique artistic vibe that Athens has that we all know exists, but might not be readily evident? So we know we have a great music scene. Is there a way that we can incorporate into these spaces music? We know we have great artists. How do we use a space like this for artists? And some of those ideas, and it's spitballing, but what I'm looking for would be to formalize a process that we could create, I don't want to call it general use space, but spaces that could be used for multiple purposes. So Kelly had brought up last month, with independent artists, do they have a space where they could sell and show off and showcase their wares in the uptown area? Right now, there isn't a good way to do that. What could be done is creating a extended outdoor space that fosters that during certain periods of the day and can be reverted in the evening to outdoor benches or art installation or something like that, an attractive way for people to come into the uptown area. So that's in a nutshell the idea and the vision. I know that some of you all had contacted me after the last meeting interested in helping with that idea. I apologize for not getting back to you right away. It's primarily because that hasn't been the primary focus, but having those that are interested on board when we are ready for that is kind of where we're going to develop.
And has there been any discussion about buskers or the piano that we talked about way back when?
Right. So currently, in the public right-of-way, we don't have any real rules or regulations outside of making sure that the pedestrian passageway is open and available at all times for people. So and meeting ADA requirements. So if a piano is in the middle of the sidewalk,
right,
blocking the way, that's problematic. But if we're creating spaces like this and we create some standards and guidelines around it, we could create a space that is intended for that purpose and could promote music, art, culture in the uptown area. Paige Alost from the Visitors Bureau sent me a document recently of light poles that are plug-in amps, essentially. So they have a mechanism in them where if you are a busker and you have amplified sound, you could plug in and play and amplify your sound in a certain area. And they're really interesting, where you can turn them on and off for certain hours of the evening and comply with your noise ordinances. But there's some opportunities that exist that we haven't utilized yet or haven't really thought about. And I think this is a great opportunity as we're developing beyond just outdoor seating and move into uptown beautification in general.
Sounds like a Scott thing. Yeah, because that's something we have literally talked about for years, is the possibility. And there have been buskers like by Woolworths. It's never been officially sanctioned. They just show up, right?
Right. And the idea with this would not necessarily be to have sign up for your time, but to provide a space that exists to do that kind of thing. I know Scott had mentioned that he was interested in helping in some level. I don't want to put him on the spot. I keep saying that tonight.
No, I'm definitely interested for sure.
I know Beth had mentioned that she was interested. I think Kelly had mentioned. I think all of you actually.
We all did.
Are on this call so that they were interested in helping.
I would love to help you get visual artists involved. That sounds great.
So as we move into the fall, what we could do with this is create a subcommittee of AMAC and break off pieces of interest. So Kelly could look at the visual art piece, see what other cities do, and how we can incorporate that into this idea. Scott related to music, Beth in the same way. And we can kind of work through what are the different needs to make it successful for each one of those groups. And how do we determine an area within a zone to where would we place it, basically? Obviously businesses outside of the storefronts, are looking at those spaces, but are there spaces that we've identified that could use beautification or use this in a way that works?
And at this point, are you limiting your thoughts to the uptown area, or are we thinking about citywide spaces that might be adaptable?
At least for this first part, it's specific to Court Street and the ancillary streets, the offshoots directly adjacent.
Okay.
For right now, metered parking.
That's good to know.
I know that our code director has started looking at some of our other public spaces outside of that uptown area. specifically for seating, but we need to identify where those are, what that looks like. Another example is we have this framework next to the Armory of the Armory Park.
Right.
I think moving into the development piece and how do we utilize that asset now that it's built would be part of this conversation.
Okay. Got that. Okay. Other questions, comments?
Have you talked to the Uptown Business Association or whatever, or any businesses about how they feel about it? I always feel like there's been times where I think, oh, this is a great idea. And then I realize that the businesses don't want us to take away their parking spots, or especially in front of their business.
Right. So there's a couple of things related to that. And you make a very good point, Scott. The first one, when we developed this, was with, at least for the first phase, was in coordination with the Uptown Business Association, in part as an economic driver. So with that in mind, how do we adapt and incorporate this part? I know the parking is, regardless of the use, is a touchy subject, or can be. What the city is committed to is we have a parking lot on College Street that we've transformed into metered parking. That's an additional 34 spaces in the Uptown area that weren't there before. And we designated in specific zones of Court Street and the offshoot streets a certain maximum number to maintain at least 75% of metered parking at all times. Now, if a business owner, let's say College Bookstore, for instance, says, we don't want anything in front of our business, I think that we can respect that. But, as we're evaluating the spaces and we're looking at them, I think we can identify some strategic locations in the Uptown area that could be utilized really well. Off the top of my head, I think adjacent to College Green, we have a series of parking from Baker Center to that second stoplight where there's no businesses. It's all, the College Green, that we could utilize in a specific way like that wouldn't affect businesses directly.
Okay. Other comments or questions or answers? Okay, we're almost at this time. We're going to beat the ending bell. We rather abruptly were cut off last month. Were two announcements in other business. I meant to tell you last month, or officially announce, that we were not selected for the Governor's Arts Award. I don't believe I told you that. So, and now we're in this strange world we live in. So that's something we can think about and see if it's something that we, if we got all of these projects going, it would look pretty good. But that's a possibility. The other thing that became public, and I believe that at our last meeting, Chelsea was sitting there chomping at the bit to tell us about the news from Carrie. So I'll let you officially announce it at our meeting right now.
Okay. So Carrie Gunther Seymour was named literally that. I don't know if it was during our meeting or just after it was announced that she is the poet laureate for the state of Ohio. And I found out, and she also announced it about 2 weeks ago, I want to say, that which one of her books was she's the poet book of the year, basically. So, big congratulations to Carrie on both of those really awesome achievements. I know that Little Professor has pretty much all of her books. And you could, if you know her personally, I'm sure she has several that she would be willing to sell anybody or to anybody if they're interested. So I would highly recommend all of her poetry.
Okay. Any other announcements or other business that you would like to bring up? Oh, Josh, I do have a question for you. Do you need me to put that event for 2021 back on our agenda to be talking about it? Where do you think that stands?
So good question. I was thinking about bringing that up. I don't really know what's happening with it because we don't even know if we're going to be able to host the Appalachian Studies Conference. We were supposed to meet this month and last month, and we just don't know enough to be able to plan. So we're kind of holding off on planning arts and cultural activities around the conference since we're not sure it's going to be able to happen here at OU. So as soon as I know more, I'll let everyone know.
Okay.
Yeah.
We will wait with bated breath. Other announcements or business or personal news that you want to share with anyone that turns up. One day last week, I was just messing with the TV and flipping around. I flipped on Us and I'm like, ah! we're high public. So that is the truth. We are out there. So if we have no further business, we can have somebody move to adjourn. You're also silent.
I move.
I second.
And we are adjourned. Thank you all very much. See you next month, if not before.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.